Welcome to MetaPod, the podcast where we discuss operational execs and organizations that make and move stuff, and our common headaches, digital transformation, the forever labor shortage, and doing more with less. And now, the host of MetaPod, Ron Crabtree.
Jeff, can you kick us off today and share with Meta friends a little about yourself and what was the driver behind developing ProcureForce?
Thanks, Kim. We started off my career actually as a production supervisor and got caught up in the Reagan-Carter recession, whoever you want to blame that one on, and went and got my master's degree. And it was the folks from Ford who got me interested into purchasing. And at the time, they were getting their clocks cleaned pretty much by the guys from Japan and losing a lot of market share. And they wanted to drastically shrink their supply base, right? And in order to do that, they knew that they needed folks who understood cost and could collaborate with fewer suppliers. And that's what drew me into Ford. And when I was at Ford, I got tasked with leading the business aspects of developing Ford's second generation purchasing system. And that system was supposed to replace North America and Europe purchasing systems, as well as support the 7 components divisions. So I got pulled into that effort, and we needed to design something that was configurable for all of those different business practices. We didn't want to have to change business practices that had been established for years. We just wanted to incrementally improve them and then provide the ability to launch further. I kind of rewired my brain a little bit to be more systems and process oriented. Fast forward, I left Ford Motor Company, went to work for a couple of different automotive suppliers, and found myself putting in place systems in those and looking for systems that would support a manufacturing company and do what we had done at Ford, and I couldn't find one. Set up Advanced Purchasing Dynamics 21 years ago as a consultancy and training company, and as we start pounding the doors with a number of different manufacturers, we realized there just wasn't a solution out there. And so we started developing one 18, 19 years ago, one to support our consulting operations, but 2, to also be able to market it as something that would align with different people's business processes, not force purchasing teams into a business process that then they would have to sell to the whole internal organization.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Thank you. So share with me, how does utilizing technology support companies when they're faced with price increases like these tariff duties?
One is the technology has to be fundamentally structured correctly. One of the things based upon my big business background was when we structured ProcureForce, we structured it for manufacturers. So you caught the causality for every single price change, and you aligned parts in commodities and categories into products that the company sells, into plants, into regions, so that you can capture price movements and report how price movements are impacting products, regions, divisions, right? While at the same time capturing the causality. And you have to be able to do that with an industrial engineer's mindset. Our chief competitor isn't really other purchasing systems. It's the ability to send out a quick email to a supplier along with an attachment and say, quote this. So while we're working for the ability to be aligned, we also have to work to face the chief competitor, which is email, and be able to issue RFQs without any clicks, right? Using AI. So RFQs automatically go out, or have the RFQ pre-populated based upon a new part coming in. And all the buyer has to do is review the information and say, yep, that looks good, and send it out or make some modifications.
Interesting. So as tariff costs increase, many manufacturing are sourcing to nearshore and onshore suppliers to move away from China. But that shift comes with pretty serious risks. So how can an organization considering this near and onshoring their supply benefit from a software like yours?
And foremost, to me, from a business practice standpoint, we've been moving parts around the world and sourcing around the world for the last 25, 30 years, right? It was my first involvement in India. One of the first rules we had was understand the cost structure where you're buying the part today, where you're buying the component today, and then be able to analyze and predict what the cost structure is going to be in the new country that you're looking at moving it to. So that's been a fundamental cost driver for us from a consultancy standpoint. ProcureForce supports this by having the ability to have category specific cost breakdowns, right? So you can get the right cost elements from current suppliers and from future suppliers and aggregate that data, right? What that means is once you start aggregating the data, if you want to know what suppliers are charging you for labor cost in Mexico versus India versus China, you've got that in your data set. It's ready to go from a reporting standpoint. So understanding cost to me is one of the key fundamentals to moving products around the world, whether you're offshoring or now what we're doing now is nearshoring and bringing it back. What we find is companies move stuff to China and didn't get the optimal price in China. They took a 35% price reduction or a 50% price reduction without really understanding the China cost structures. Right? And when they go to move it back to the US, they don't have optimal pricing in China. So they're comparing US pricing to non-optimal China pricing, non-optimal US pricing. And it's just based upon, price, not really what the costs are. And our experience from a consulting standpoint is when buyers truly understand cost, they buy at a price that's 12 to 18% lower to buyers who don't understand costs and are just buying solely on price.
Interesting. Interesting. So I was reviewing ProcureForce and see one of the statements you have enhance cross functional alignment. Why is that important and how does that really affect the bottom line?
That's a good question. Um, Before COVID, we did a survey of CEOs in manufacturing companies, and 58% of the CEOs surveyed thought that their purchasing team wasn't delivering value. That's pretty damning. I mean, statistics, right? And when we drilled down to the CEOs, it was the cross-functional nature of the relationship. Purchasing's reporting cost savings, and the CEOs not seeing the savings in the profit margin of the company.
Right.
And purchasing wasn't trying to bridge that gap. By setting up the right data structures in a system and understanding total acquisition costs, total relationship costs, what's going on from a pricing standpoint with the customers based upon the cost reductions you're doing, you can start to present an overall picture that shows value, right? It doesn't create value for the company if you save a dollar only to give that dollar away to the customer with no benefit. All right. So ProcureForce allows you to build the data sets and analyze things so that when you meet with sales, when you meet with engineering, you're doing facts-based understanding of what the total cost is, the implement changes, what the impact is going to be from a revenue perspective as well.
Excellent. Very insightful. Thank you. I appreciate that. If an organization's considering a technology to support and help their procurement process, where would you tell them to start?
Probably not with a solution yet. First, think about your processes. What processes are you trying to get technology for? How are you accomplishing those processes today? And how will a new system or technology enable those processes to be better? What we don't want to do is try to do what we term as a revolution, right? We're going to buy a new system and we're going to change all of our processes. right? To us, the best implementation is you're already aligned with sales and engineering and operations with existing processes. Let's implement a system that supports those processes and then do what we call rapid evolution. Apply technology to those processes, look and see how they're running, and then in 6 months' time, start adjusting those processes and evolve over time to your desired state. A lot of purchasing systems, and after I left Ford, Ford spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to implement Oracle across the company, changing all the processes with the implementation, and realized when they started doing the implementation that was going to fail. And I think the cost was over $200 million to back out Oracle because it wasn't going to work, right? It was just too much, too fast, trying to do a revolution across the company that size that impacted every single process versus what we call, putting a stake in the ground, automating the current process, doing rapid evolution where every time you launch a new change to the business process, it's showing a return on investment, right? Cross-functionally, as you brought up earlier, and value to the company to satisfy the CEOs who wouldn't think that purchasing was bringing value to their company.
Interesting. So, what considerations are required to make the best decision in this type of purchase?
Right. I'm going to go back to processes again. What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to improve? How is technology going to improve that? Secondly, can you launch, and we call it kind of a Lego launch, like little Lego blocks. Can you launch little Lego blocks in rapid evolution so you can bring folks along with any change effort? You looked at what you're trying to change, and there's multitudes of things you're trying to change, and some are easy to change and some are hard. Some provide great benefit, some provide low. And you put them in a 2x2 matrix and you try to find the easy things that are going to provide high benefit. And that's what you want in your first Lego, right? Something is going to provide great benefit, rapid to introduce. It builds credibility within the company and with the organization because all change brings some form of pain, but you want that change to have a very rapid return on investment. So people are excited about the next change and about the next one.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up my questions for you. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
Just that kind of a plug for Meta Experts and Meta Ops. We've been partners for probably 12, 13, 14 years. Always enjoyed the relationship. I think it's been beneficial for both. So thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Thanks for everybody for listening.
Awesome. And then just one more thing. If anyone wants to reach you, how would they connect?
Jeoff Burris at apurchasingd.com is my email address, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn all the time.
And could you spell your name for everybody?
Yeah, Jeoff
And
RIS.
awesome. And so that's for our listeners who aren't watching. They can write it down and get in touch with you. So thank you, Jeff, for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking your precious time. And I know our audience is going to benefit from your insights. And also, I think you have a webinar that's coming up. When would that be?
I think it's June 26th.
Okay, awesome. And so Mike Wynn, I think, will do a little deeper dive into that. So check that out, and we'll put a link below in the description. So take care and have a wonderful day, Jeff.
Great, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
thank you for joining MetaPod. For requests on topics or to ask questions, you can connect with Ron Crabtree 3 ways: via email at metapod@metaexperts.com, via LinkedIn, or by calling him directly at 734-425-1455, extension 103. Lastly, if you love the show, please consider leaving a 5-star review on your favorite podcast app. We truly appreciate all your support.